Hi, friends. It's Jess with our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm here with Matt Smith, and he's a full-time YouTube creator. He has a great channel. It's called What's the Dirt. He's super successful. Check out his channel, subscribe. So, Matt is here with me, and he also has bipolar. So, we're going to talk a little bit about him being a YouTuber, but also like what he did for work beforehand and why YouTube is a better route for him. So, how are you doing, Matt? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing well. And like I gotta tell you, I get offers to do interviews and stuff, but this is my most exciting one because of just how I'm very passionate about this mental health, bipolar. Like I want to be doing things like this. You know what I mean? I'm very happy to be doing this right now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm giving you an opportunity. And yeah, you should definitely do more stuff. People need
Hmm.
to hear from you for sure on this topic. But
Yeah.
so, first, let's just talk about, so what is your diagnosis?
So my diagnosis is bipolar type two. Type
Bipolar
two.
type 2. Okay. And you guys, most of you know I'm bipolar 1. And actually, because of my medication, I kind of act as if I have bipolar 2 because I no longer have the full-blown mania. I have just, hypomania from time to time and depression. So
Mhm.
before we go into your channel and everything you've been doing over there, why don't you talk a little bit about what you did for work before YouTube?
So before YouTube, I was in the construction industry, mostly doing like project management, quality control. Found myself in a lot of pretty big roles, like pretty much like I work for a lot of different companies, right? Because of being bipolar, as I found out that like basically I would work for a company for a year, 2 years tops before something would happen either on my own accord. I would quit impulsively. I would get frustrated. I would lose my job from losing time. So I would always find a way to work up to a very high role within a company, but it just would not work. But yeah, I had a lot of management roles and stuff like that over the years for sure within the construction industry.
Yeah. And so did you also, I know I had trouble like getting up in the morning, especially when I was not doing so well on meds. And I got in trouble for that. I mean, did you find that too?
100%. That was one of the absenteeism was one of the biggest parts of it. And because my diagnosis came much later, like I got diagnosed at 30, for a good chunk of my career, I didn't even understand why I was being this way and why these things were happening and like why, how come none of my friends are finding themselves in these situations, but I always am. Like what, it had to get to a point where I needed to actually figure it out. And once it did, it all clicked and it started to make sense, right? But yeah, getting up in the morning and just maintaining relationships at work or maybe not becoming frustrating. There was times where I would storm out of a meeting. There was times where I would quit a job on a whim, just leave with no backup plan whatsoever, no other job lined up, no money in the bank, nothing. Pretty much broke, living check to check, but still not having that whatever it was in my head telling me not to do that. Just pick up the phone and tell my boss I quit. Or another time, I just literally got in a company truck, I drove it to the gate, and then I got in my own car and I left. And when I was halfway home, is when I called them and said, "Hey, the truck is at the gate. I quit." Like stuff like that that I was doing that was just off sheer impulse and emotion, right?
Yeah.
Um, that caused a lot of problems.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate. And I have a very flexible job now. I'm a, managing editor for some scientific journals. And the only reason I'm able to keep this job and been at my company for a long time is because it's so flexible and we get so much vacation time. And like, if there's a morning where I just can't get up for whatever reason, if I'm having symptoms or not, I can start later. I could just start
Right.
later that day and then like work a little extra to make up for it. things like that. So yeah, I really relate to that. And then, so was there an incident or was there a reason you were like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm going to switch over to doing YouTube full time.
So what had happened was I went into a major stage. I started with a company. I was only there for maybe 2 or 3 months. And I was getting a lot of compliments from people like, oh, this new guy's great. Like, everyone was saying like how great I was for the company and stuff. And I was in hypomania, and that really got to my head. And basically, with being within a company for 2 or 3 months, I went into the manager's office and pretty much demanded more money. I wanted a raise. I felt like I was deserving of a raise when really I hadn't even really laid any roots with the company at all. And when he told me that's not how it works, Matt. You haven't been here. You've been great, but like you've only been here a couple months. You don't deserve a raise. So even then, I ended up going above his head, and I emailed his boss, who didn't even know who I was, telling him all about myself and all the things I changed. And like, this guy says I don't deserve the money, but I know I do. And at that point, my girlfriend recommended that I go to the doctor, and they told me like, yeah, you're hypomanic, and that's when they told me to take some time off to calm down, right?
Mhm.
So during the process of taking some time off is when I started the YouTube channel because, like I said, I was hypomanic. So I was in the mood to be doing things and creating. So that's when I started the channel, and I stayed off on disability, short-term disability, for like 6, 8 months, and then the channel popped off so quick that in no time I was making just as much money as I was making at my job. So this became a full-time job for me then. And where it was a blessing was I don't have anyone to answer to now. If I don't want to come in here, I'm not well enough, I don't come in here. In fact, you can watch on my channels and you can see the gaps in content. You can see like, oh, where was he for this full month? He didn't do anything. That was me probably not feeling the best and not coming in here. But having a job like this affords the luxury of being able to do that. Whereas with these other companies, it's a little more dicey, right?
Right. I mean, if you're having like a 9 to 5 job, I mean, you don't have the option really, like you said, you were on short-term disability. So you did have the option to not go in at that time and still get paid. But,
Sorry.
oh, no, it's okay. But most of the time you don't have that option. And just so people know, because I know some people are watching, they don't have bipolar. Can you just describe a little bit more about like what kind of symptoms you had with hypomania?
Very impulsive. Impulsive is the number one. Spending money that I don't have.
Mhm.
Uh, just basically being extremely sped up, not needing as much sleep,
Mhm.
being also very irritated, like very, very irritated with things. Little tiny things will piss me off. And that's just basically, and when it comes to making content, sometimes it could be like almost a good thing, it feels like, because I feel so dialed and I feel like everything's working, like all the ideas are coming, everything's like I can write so good, like everything's just coming and working. But in saying that, there's always things like I just mentioned where I could drain my bank account, which is why anytime I get money now, anything, it goes directly to my girlfriend because she can manage it, whereas I won't. And this is the only time in my life where I've been able to save money because I would buy some stupid thing that I didn't need, right?
Mhm.
And there's not really a voice in my head that tells me not to do it. And it's something I work on a lot with my therapist that to help me with this, right? But yeah, like even with the company was actually pretty like tolerant of my situation, right? Like they were constantly telling me, "Don't worry, like we're here for you," and this, that, and the third, and like they say that, but I feel like there's a big part of it where it just seems like they have to say it, like because a lot of these companies they put like mental health matters posters on the wall and like here's a number for you to call this number if you need help. That's pretty much all they do when it comes to mental health. But as far as like it'll never change, like the stigma will never change in mental health if they don't train people within, like, even the managers, even the people who are running these companies, they don't know what bipolar is. They don't have a clue. They don't know
Right.
what it looks like. They don't know the symptoms. So if you're not training your staff and your infrastructure on what these things are, how do you expect people to be tolerant? Like, just just putting a number, just putting a number out there for people to call is not really working. Like, just train. You need to educate people. So that was another thing I wanted to say.
Yeah. No, I agree. I more needs to be done. And, we're here today, we're talking about it. So I think we're
Yeah.
getting the conversation going and moving forward. Oh, but what you were saying about, the symptoms of hypomania, like I have all of those symptoms, and you were talking about the irritability. And I think sometimes people don't realize that that is a symptom of hypomania. You can have dysphoric or mixed hypomania. And for me, like
Mm-hmm.
I call it irrational irritability because like you said, it's like I'm irritable about anything and everything, like every little thing. And it's horrible to feel that way. Like you
Oh,
don't like you're going through life and you're around like, like your girlfriend or like my husband, my daughter, and you're feeling this way and you don't want to take it out on them. But if they're there, it is going to happen from time to time. I mean, it will happen. And so I always try to like isolate myself, like also because I'm trying to get better and get rid of all the stimuli that's there. But yeah, I just don't want to take it out on them. And that can be really
yeah. Like,
hard.
the irritability can get so bad that even my dog could be like panting a certain way, and I'm like, get away from me! Like, it's just like
Yeah.
everything. Like, it's just little the TV. Like, it's just the way someone chews or eats food. Like, it's a whole bunch of different things that
Yeah,
just,
it's like any possible thing.
yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
And then at the same time, like, my mind is like going a mile a minute all the time. Like, it's just like processing nonstop thoughts, like, at an insane rate. And I always tell my girl, I'm like, I wish I could take my brain and like give it to you so you could put it in your brain for just 5 minutes to understand like what this is like. And I'm pretty sure she'd be like, like, here, like,
Like
take it
throw it
back.
back at
Take
you.
it
Yeah.
back. This is not like, like, it's like, and there's a lot of struggles that come with it. Like, the number one thing that I get when I've disclosed to people that I have bipolar is they'll say, I would never know. Like, you don't seem bipolar. Every time that's the answer, it's because they don't know what it is. Like, they just have an idea of what they think it is, but they don't know what it actually is and what the real symptoms are, and that everyone's kind of different when it comes to it. Like, no,
Right. And
it's
what
not
they
a one
do
size
know,
fits all.
no, and what they do know is like something from TV or a movie where someone is like totally out of control all the time, and that's not usually
It's
how
not.
it is. What do you do in terms of like self-care or medication, like to get things under control? Like, do you have things like pretty stable most of the time, or are you still like
Mm-hmm.
struggling a bit?
uh I definitely still struggle, but like, medication is obviously the biggest thing for me. And like, once medication got introduced, like I said, I got diagnosed at 30. I'm 35 now, so I'm still learning, like, in these last 5 years of how to manage this properly. But once the medication got introduced into my life, it's at that point where like my struggles with substance abuse and like a lot of the things that I was dealing with before being medicated really, really subsided, with the medication. Now they've had to tweak it here and there, right? I
Yeah.
take lithium carbonate, Seroquel, and a mild antidepressant, right? Very, very low.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the cocktail that they got me on, which hasn't really changed. So with the medication, obviously eating well, trying to get outdoors, trying to, I go through spurts of doing that. I wish I could be more consistent with it, but I find that exercise is definitely up there with medication, probably.
Yeah.
Like, it's up there. Like, as far as like, and that's another thing that kind of doing this can kind of get me out of that too, where I'm trying
Mhm.
to pump out content and stuff. I kind of lose my way a bit, but yeah, I do all those things to try and stay stable, and most of the times I am.
Good. No, it's great. It's
Yeah.
funny because I also take lithium and Seroquel. I don't take an antidepressant because, I bipolar one. But early on, like when I was first diagnosed, I was initially misdiagnosed with depression. And so I was on an antidepressant and they kept me on the antidepressant after I was diagnosed with bipolar one. And I was also
Mhm.
taking Depakote at that time, which so neither drug worked for me. And I certainly
Yeah.
shouldn't have been on an antidepressant. But for you, I know that for bipolar 2, an antidepressant really can help.
It's yeah, like definitely bipolar one antidepressant not recommended. Like in fact, it could drive people into mania, as far as I know, right? It can
That's
be
what it did for me.
right.
Yeah,
So that's why they're very careful with the dose that I take. It's so low because it could still do something similar for me, right? But it's a very, very low dose.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So we talked a little bit about like we were already talking about some of the pros of doing YouTube and being a creator. So, like, what are some other pros? Like, obviously, you can make your own schedule. That's huge. But is there anything else?
The pros are definitely like just being able to work within my own home
Hmm.
and like like I literally walk 15 feet from my bedroom to get into this studio. Like I said, if I don't want to come in here, I don't. But that's really the sheer luxury of it is the fact that I can do this on my own. There's no one above me like delegating and like there's no deadlines. There's nothing to adhere to. Like it's all on me, which is the ideal scenario for me. Now, in saying that, there's a lot of things I've done over the years that I've built up and completely sabotaged. So
Yeah.
I've got a history of doing that. So that's something I really talk to my therapist about a lot. Is one of my fears with this is I tell her like my biggest fear is losing everything and doing something stupid and just destroying everything that I've built. Um, because that can happen with bipolar. It's
Yeah.
common. It's common.
It is common. I was telling you before, like a few years ago at work, I was self-sabotaging and I decided to like speak up about things I felt were wrong with what was going on in the department. And other people said they'd back me up, and no one did. And
Mm-hmm.
I was really afraid I was going to lose my job. And it was all because of me.
Yeah.
There was nothing about my work or anything that caused it except for me feeling impulsive and feeling like I really needed to speak up about this injustice that was going on. Thankfully I
That
didn't lose my job, but it was scary. And I
yeah.
just
Yeah.
realized like I can't put myself in those kind of positions.
What I've been trying to do more of is exactly what my therapist told me is like if I gotta think about something, like say I'm writing a comment or doing something on social media or plan to put something in a video, if I really gotta think about like should I add this? Like should I say this? Then I probably shouldn't do it if I gotta think like about it, right? Like
Right.
really long. Yeah, like then maybe just leave it out because if I got a second guess, like maybe it's just not worth it. But a lot of times with the impulsiveness, that little voice is not there. That voice of reason is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
That's what's
No,
scary about
that's
it.
true.
But that's exactly why I talk to my therapist twice a month. And like I even text her throughout the week, especially lately, because it's been like kind of there's been an added stress to what I'm doing. And she's been great for stuff like that and to keep me on the right track so I don't. So I don't destroy what I built.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw you had that big video you did recently that wasn't monetized and like you still don't even know. I guess you're not going to know why, but I would assume that that was pretty hard to take.
It it was really hard to take because the video would have it was an hour-long video that I worked hundreds of hours on. Like it took 2 weeks to do. But so I put it out there, like if anyone wanted to donate, they could. And I was really surprised with the amount of support that I got from my audience. They sent me over $11,000.
Wow.
which like made me realize it kind of needed to happen because it kind of clicked with me like, wow, people really do love my content. Like they're taking their own money and like it just kind of blew my mind. It blew my mind and it made me
Right.
realize like just how much people are rocking with what I'm doing. So it was a lesson learned and it was frustrating, but I didn't let it get to me. I didn't let it get into my head.
Yeah, like bring you down. Yeah.
I didn't let it bring me down, which it could have. I think those donations probably saved it.
And that really does say something because, as we know, like you're making money off of ad revenue typically on videos. So people are just watching the video, but this is people actually, giving you, donating money
Yeah,
to you directly, which is much different. So that's
much
pretty
much
cool.
different. Much different when like I think about it, like a dollar is a lot these days, whether you're in America or Canada, the economies are just not that great. A lot of people just don't have money to give. And the fact that they're reaching into their pockets and doing that for me just hit me in a different way than like say a comment would or like someone hitting a like or it's just a
Mhm.
different type of feeling it gave me to make me realize that wow, like I do have a really good audience that really do value what I'm doing.
Yeah, you definitely do. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about pros. What are some cons of YouTube? I mean, I know it seems like overall this is a much better situation for you than working a 9 to 5 job, but like there still have to be cons.
There's cons. Like the cons are like because the channel has grown like this month alone, this month the channel gained over 120,000 subscribers in 28 days.
Wow.
So the channel has grown so fast that I can't even process it. And just the influx of comments and like thousands of comments every day, and like a lot of them are very good. Like, stuff that could really drive me into hypomania. Just the fact that everyone is like kind of complimenting me and saying like your content's amazing, your content's amazing, and I just like another thing that I talked to my therapist about is like I said to her I could see how people could like this could get to their head. I don't want that to
Mhm.
happen. Like I don't want to like this is the internet. The internet's not real life. Like I need to try to separate that and just and then there's also the negative comments, which 1% of my comments is probably negative. But being someone that feels emotion the way that I do,
Mhm.
uh, like even one simple negative comment could be something that I'll like ruminate on, like I'll think about for days, probably just one negative comment. Just because that's the nature of how most of us who are bipolar are very emotional, right?
Right.
So a negative comment could put me in a really shitty place, like give me a lot of anxiety, keep me up at night. So like especially if you read like say 10 of them in a day, even that many is enough to put you in a bad place. So I'm trying to have thick skin with it, but at the same time, because I have bipolar, it's difficult sometimes to uh, look at these comments and not have it affect me, right?
Yeah, I mean, we feel things really deeply, like in a good
Mm-hmm.
way and in a bad way. I mean, the positive is you do have to be careful because it could sort of like push you over the edge into hypomania. But then if you get something like I've gotten, not very many, but I've gotten negative comments, of course, too. And sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I can brush them off, but sometimes they really hit home. And in those cases, I don't know about you, but like I'll usually talk to a friend about it and usually like making fun of it or like joking around,
Yeah.
but it still does bother me,
U-
you know?
Usually I'll mention it to my girl and be like, just look at this comment right here. Like, look how mean this is. Like, oh,
Yeah.
look how mean this is, man. Like, why would they say that? She's like, Matt, don't worry about it. Like, you just read like 10,000 nice comments. Why are you worried about this one? Because literally, like 99% of my comments are overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Like complimenting me, like amazing comments, right? But then there's those couple where I shouldn't even be paying attention to them, but it's like the nature of humans, and then the fact that I have this illness as well makes me like dwell on it and overthink it, and like
Yeah.
maybe they're right. Like what, like in my head a lot, in my head a lot. Like 24/7 pretty much.
But with your channel being so successful, I imagine it's like a little easier to like forget about those like negative comments or no?
No,
No.
no, I'd like to tell you, I'd like to sit here and tell you that it don't affect me, but it definitely does. And most YouTubers are probably supposed to tell you, oh no, I don't care. But like I definitely do care. Like there's definitely comments that I get that make me like dwell on it and like think like because sometimes there's some truth in negative comments too, right?
Right.
So I try to like but I get into over analyzing it, being like trying to almost convince myself that what they're saying is true. What instead of doing the opposite.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it rationally and being like, okay, 10,000 people said this, five people said this, like, oh, five of these people got to be right. Like, like this is what I need to focus on. Like, it just doesn't make sense, but that's where my brain takes me.
Yeah.
All things I do therapy for, and she gives me some tools to try and deal with it, but it's probably never going to go away, to be honest with you.
Well, no, I mean it's the nature of YouTube. I think it's gonna happen from time to
Mm-hmm.
time. What are some other cons? I think we talked about like sleep, like when you're filming, like that can get thrown off. Is there
Yeah, the
anything
cons.
else?
Yeah, another con would be like, for example, I have a hip hop YouTube channel, and a moment recently happened in the culture that was like a massive time pressing moment where every day something new was happening. And my audience was pretty much because I take my time with my videos, my audience were like constantly saying, where's the video? Where is it? Where is it? Why are you so slow? This guy got his out. Where's yours? Where's yours? And I'm talking like thousands of comments like this, right? That really got to me as well because it just added a lot of stress. In fact, when I saw my therapist, she told me it was one of the worst times she had ever seen me in the last 4 years.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like you're very anxious. Like you got to go home to bed. You got to up your quetiapine, which is what I did. I had to
Mhm.
actually. She's like, you're very strung out. She's like, all this talk about self sabotage that you're worried about by doing what you're doing right now. You're doing 18, 20-hour days trying to appease these people. You're self sabotaging by doing that. She's like, you are on the way to doing what you're afraid of. You're not eating well. You're not sleeping well. You're not working out. This is what you will do to self sabotage. She's like, so
Yeah.
you're driving right towards it. And so yeah, that stuff like that, like trying to get videos out in time and pressure from the audience, and that affects me too a lot, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about? Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, I would like to say that like I think I think a lot of people who are bipolar kind of feel like, we're pigeonholed into not being able to maybe do certain things or maybe feeling like there's not a perfect fit for you career wise or maybe feeling like you don't belong or maybe feeling like, you shouldn't be working or whatever. And um, I just like to tell people to keep an open mind and just know that, you're special and unique and that you can fit in somewhere. You can find something that works for you. You can find a way. You don't, you know, just don't try not to let the stigma and the pressures of society get to you and tell you what you can and can't do. And think outside the box because that's what we do, right? So
Mhm.
use that to your advantage. I'm not saying that everyone is going to be able. Some people have different circumstances, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe every single person who is bipolar has a gift, and it can be used in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a couple of videos about work, my work, and I'll put those in the description box. Obviously I still work like a 9 to 5 job, but like I said, it's super flexible and I work from home and I have a lot of the things that you have with your YouTube, but yours is much more flexible. I mean, mine's flexible for a 9 to 5 job, but it's not you know,
as flexible as this.
it's not like I do whatever I want and I'm my own
Yeah,
boss and all of that. So that's pretty cool.
it could get
But
there.
well,
It could get there if you
I don't
wanted
even
to.
know if I want to, but maybe.
Yeah,
I
it could
mean,
get
seeing
there.
you do it
It's whatever
definitely.
you want. It's whatever you want. I don't know if you ever read the book The Alchemist.
I did.
That is the reason why I started the channel. While I was hypomanic, while I was off from work, I picked up that book and I read it. And as soon as I closed the cover, I immediately looked at my. As soon as I finished reading, I looked. It connected with me in a way that nothing else has. And I
Hmm.
looked at my girl and I was like, I looked at my girl and said, I'm gonna start the YouTube channel. Within like 10 minutes of reading that book, I bought a mic, camera, the things I needed to start the channel. And it just, like I said, it connected with me. If it wasn't for me reading that book, I wouldn't have started the channel.
That's amazing. That book is on the shelves somewhere right here. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
only read it. Maybe I need to read it again,
Oh
but
man, it
it's
just
so
shows you.
good.
It shows you that it shows you that not only that you can do it, but that you need to believe that you can do it and that you
Mhm.
can't. Like, it's so good at doing that. Because the YouTube channel was something I talked about for years, like for 5, 8 years probably. I'm gonna start a channel. I'm gonna do that one day. I think I can do it, and never ever put anything in motion. And then the book just gave me that driving force to do it somehow.
No, that's
So
so
I
cool. Yeah.
love that book. Like that book changed my life for real.
Yeah, and I'll link The Alchemist down in the description box too. Yeah,
Mm,
it's a great book.
mm, amazing,
Well, I'm so
amazing.
glad you were here today. Oh, I want to tell everyone to please subscribe, like this video if you like it, and comment. And also be sure to go over to Matt Smith's YouTube channel, What's the Dirt? Subscribe to him. He has a ton of subscribers, but he can always use a few more. So, Matt, thank you so much for being here. I feel like we learned so much and seeing everybody's different experiences with working and having bipolar, I think it's really important to like put it out there and just
It
talk
is
about what each of us is doing. And, there are people who need to be on disability too, and that's okay. So
facts.
that's
I
also an
I
option.
was I was absolutely honored, and I would be more than happy to do this again for any topic or anything like that. I would be 100% down to come on the channel again. I'm planning on doing more stuff for bipolar uh, in the future. Whether I don't know what that is, but whatever I can do to bring attention to this, I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try my best to do. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm game to come on the channel again. I enjoyed this.
good. Well, I enjoyed it. I'd love to have you on the channel again. We'll definitely do more stuff together. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.